Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back. Right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay? So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now, let's get to the episode.
They kept coming up, and here's the phrase they'd say, your story is my story too. We are connected by the pain we hide. 100%. And what happens when we expose it and we look in the room and we're like, holy crap. Ooh. Like we're not, like we're together. We're really together in this. So if we're connected by the pain, we can also be connected by the healing and walk shoulder to shoulder in victory together. And there is so much more. Like in one of my phrases is, you were created for more. You were created for more than just to survive the pain you've endured.
No, man.
Just to get through life. Like we could talk poverty mindset.
That's the cost of admission. Listen, the pain is the cost of admission, man. That's the cost of admission, is the pain. And so now what do you do with it, man? Now that you're in the show, what do you do with it now? You know? Dude, that's awesome. I love the fact that you're connecting and impacting people in that way. I put my phone number up on the screen when I present. I was in a room full of 1,000 cops, and I put my number up there. I said, hey, I know all 1,000 of you. No one's going to raise their hand and ask a question. I said, and then when I put my number up there, I immediately regretted it, man, because I was like,
"Oh, I used to do it."
I go, man, this is not gonna end well for John Kelly.
I used to do that.
Yeah, and I make a joke of it, right? And wouldn't you know, though, at the first break, my first block, I talk about relationships and what I did to my family, and I'm scrolling at them. And it's friggin' text after text after text. And like you said, guys coming up to me going, and just not saying a word, man, but with tears in their eyes. And you go, it's all right, brother. I got you. Yep. It's, I will argue all day long that this second chapter is more impactful than the first. You know, we're out there serving the public and all that good stuff. And that really doesn't matter a whole hell of a lot. But when we can serve each other, our fellow brothers and sisters in this community, and we can help them navigate the pain. Come on, man. Holy smokes.
Look, you talk about a brotherhood. If we want to see the brotherhood strengthen beyond anything we've seen in our lifetime, this is where it begins. It's more than what we do on the road together. Look, we know that 99.9% of us are going to be in the fight if you are, right?
Right.
But who's going to be there for me when I'm battling the demons in the middle of the night?
Right. No.
You know, or if, you know, I'm suffering and I don't want to talk about it, who's going to know me well enough to say, hey, John, I noticed you've been blah, 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 whatever, out of sync. Let's go have a drink, man. Let's go get some coffee. Let's go
for a walk, man. Let's go for a walk.
Do something.
Yeah,
you know? So yeah, it's, I want to use the pain that I had and use it to help others, use the mistakes I've made and help others, and somehow leave things a little bit better than I found them.
Isn't that the goal, man? Isn't that the goal? Listen,
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time, Adam. I could just do this, man, forever. I'm sure I'm not the first person who said how easy it is to talk with you. I'm gonna do my intro. If it's god awful, I'll re-record it when
Roger that.
I'm in the right space. Uh, I'm pretty good at shooting from the hip. And then we're just going to talk, man. I want to talk about the book. I want to talk a little bit about the past, just so people that don't know you can have a frame of reference. But I really want to talk about not so much the pain, but how we negotiated through the pain.
Yep.
And obviously what you're doing now. And then just as things come up, man, organically, like I told you, there's a couple things. When we start talking about God, I'm I don't know that I struggle. I don't know what I do. I think I'm fair weather, man. I'm fair weather, and we'll talk about that because I'm an open book about that as well. Cool.
That sounds good. Let's get it.
All right. Hey, folks, John Kelly, welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Sitting down with Adam Davis. Yeah, that Adam Davis. I'm telling you, man, blessed. I am blessed. Adam Davis, many, many books to his credit. The latest, Unconquered, the 10 Principles to Overcome Adversity and Live Above Defeat. He runs with some really special people, some people that care. Good Colonel Dave Grossman, Cindy Doyle, Tim Kennedy, Tom Rizzo. Just the list goes on, man. And we'll talk about surrounding ourselves with people that add value to our lives, and that's just one of the things that is a takeaway from his book. We're going to talk about Unconquered, trials, tribulations, the role that God plays in our lives, and how we make sense of the pain. So without further ado, you guys welcome Adam Davis to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Brother.
John, thank you for having me, brother. It's truly an honor to be able to talk to you. Thank you so much.
No, man, listen. I love what you're doing. I love what you've been doing. I wish you didn't have the pain that brought you to this place, but without the pain, I always say you can't have the sweet without the sour, man. And so, that I wish there were other ways to get here, man, but sometimes, that's out of our control.
Look, I'll be straight with you. A lot of times people ask me, how do I know when I've truly forgiven? And here, this is different for everybody. I would never suggest that there's one size fits all, but for me, I can sit here today and say, because of the impact that I've been able to have just on one person, much less a number far beyond what I could count, I'm thankful for the pain.
Right.
And I don't mean that in some weird way, but I'm genuinely thankful for the experience, for the pain, for my own sins and my own mistakes. Because through it all, we could either say I'm a victim and woe is me, or I can say, what can I learn from this? Let's pick up and go use it to help somebody else. And so I'm grateful. I have forgiven the people who've hurt me, but I'm grateful to be sitting here today because that pain turned into a message, just touched, I know more than 170,000 lives that I can measure.
Yeah, no, that's the perspective, man. That's a perspective that the healthy perspective to have. Because wallowing in it, not only is it not doing you any good, man, it's certainly not doing anybody else any good.
It's draining.
Yeah.
It's draining.
No, and it doesn't need to be. Making sense of the pain and using that pain as fuel to pay it forward. Hey, before we get into the book, I read the book. We talked a little bit before we kind of launched, and courage, right? Like courage is the first thing that comes to my mind, is that, courage and vulnerability. Because I think that sets the stage for an honest open, caring conversation. And you are the king of that right now, my friend. You are the king of honesty and vulnerability.
Well, I'll tell you, um, I've been doing it almost 10 years, I guess. It's somewhere between 8 and 10. And it still rattles me a little bit every time. But I don't, anybody listening to this, John, you and I were talking before we kick this off, and something I've said time and time again is we're all connected by the pain that we hide. And with that being said, I am nothing special or different than you. I'm just someone who decided to speak out and use the pain. You could do the same thing in your world, in your community.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you've gone through, what you've done, or what's been done to you. You were created for more than surviving and hiding that pain. It's time to expose it so you can walk in freedom and victory. And so I'm here to serve and however way I can to improve somebody else's life in some small way.
Yeah, and you're doing that, man. You're doing that. You're not just talking about it. You're not just writing about it. You're out there impacting people's lives on a daily basis. If we can briefly, because I want to talk about how we get through the pain and how we turn that pain, into adding value to not only our own lives but others. You were a victim of sexual abuse when you were a young man.
Yeah, I know we have to use the term victim in reports, but I get what you're saying.
Well, no, you know what? No, like, hey, listen,
I beat
it. You didn't ask for it, brother. I would, so I will say, yeah, we're not going to mince words here, man, but yeah, you no longer view yourself through that lens. That I
hey,
get,
man,
but
yes, yeah, I used to have a bad victim mentality, buddy.
Well,
big
when
time.
you're little and you don't know how to focus and refocus and shift.
Yeah. I was 5 years old. So my mom and dad divorced, and I'll make this super brief, but 5 years old, my mom and dad divorced, and I was left in the care of an older male neighbor who was not a relative. I always want to make that really clear. My dad never did anything to hurt me. He's one of my best friends to this day. It started off normal, right? And cartoons, play outside, do whatever I want. Then one day he popped a VHS into a VCR sitting on top of a console TV, and it was porn. That was my first exposure to pornography. And it wasn't long after that. I don't know how long it went on. I don't know how many times it happened. It was more than 2 or 3. But then, it was rape. I mean, that's what it was. I was a little boy, and it was as graphically detailed as you could possibly imagine. And so my mom remarried. She remarried a preacher, and so I grew up going to church 13 days a week.
Yeah.
And I say that jokingly, but
no kidding, right?
I was there all the time.
Sure.
And then at 15, I was left with a babysitter. If you're listening to this, I'm using air quotes, but that's what it was. That's who I was told. And she was a leader in the church, and I was told that I was there to be part of God. I was part of God's plan for her healing. And so she'd leave singing at the church and make me strawberry daiquiris Bacardi at her home, and we'd have sex numerous times throughout the day until I was able to drive. My dad got me a little green Geo Metro. I don't know why I needed a babysitter at 15. There's questions there.
Well, the bigger question is the Geo Metro, quite frankly. The green.
It was a gift, bro. It was a gift.
I tell you, understood.
It was 2-door hatchback, and it got like 60 miles to the gallon.
All right, fair enough. Fuel economy, whatever.
I'd have to cut the driver's seat out and sit in the back seat if I drove it today. But
oh my goodness.
Anyway, I started going to a different church, and and pulled up one night, locked my keys in my car, called my dad. I was like, "Hey, I need your help. Lock my keys in my car." He didn't know all the stuff that was going on. He didn't. At this point, nobody knew. Nobody understood why between the ages of 5 and 8 or 9, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I couldn't control bowel movements, and I had speech impediments, and nobody understood. They were just taking me to doctors and psychiatrists and whatever. And and so I had not told anybody about this. Fear, fear, fear is real. Fear is real, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not fear of engaging a threat as law enforcement officers. Sometimes it's fear of engaging the pain that we hide. And that was for me. And plus, the guy lived next door and told me he'd kill me a number of times, and I believed him. And so I never talked to anybody about it. And so my dad came to help me out, and he pulled up. Dad's a man's man, huge law enforcement supporter. Always had, he's got a lot of friends are law enforcement anyway. And he pulled up. I jumped in the wrecker tow truck and locked the doors. And I said, "Hey, I need your help." And he was like, "No crap. That's why I'm here." I'm like, "No, like unlock the door. That'd be awesome. But here's what's been going on." And Dad's first words were very violent, and rightfully so.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so that's the proper response of a parent who loves their child. I'm not advocating for violence, but I will make this statement clearly. I have 3 children. I love Jesus. He's done a lot for me. I cling to my faith, but I have no problem digging the blood of someone out from under my fingernails if they hurt my children or my family.
Amen.
And that's where my dad was at. He moved to protect me. He called in a meeting. His first move was to protect me. And so that ended around when I was 16, but they felt like everything was good, but I was pretty jacked
up. That's a lot to carry for a long time, brother.
You think? Yeah. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
You talk about perspective issues and trust, and just, I was jacked up, man. And then got married at 18 years old, just about 2 years later, roughly. Okay. And we just celebrated 23 years. That's if you don't believe in miracles, that's one for you right there.
How about that, man? How about that? 23 years. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. So that's the childhood stuff. In a nutshell.
Right. No, and that's, like I said, that's more than enough to give the reader, listener, an idea, man, of what kind of, when we talk about pain and remaining silent,
unforgiveness, hate,
pure
rage towards the people that hurt me for a long time. And so, it took a little while to find some healing. How about that?
Yeah. Right. And so, and going through the book, man, I was putting a lot of things in my own words. Like when you're, your principles, the 10 principles, number 2, the controlling yourself. I looked at that as the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, let me put it in John digestible terms. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Well, for me, that just, that aspect, and that's a beautiful way to put it. And I love that prayer. But it's understanding that there's a whole lot of crap that's happened to us that was outside of our control. Whether we want to believe that or not, it was outside of our control.
Right.
And the fact is, there's going to be a lot more stuff happening in the future outside of our control. But what we can control is how we respond to it. And so bringing up that serenity prayer is absolutely profound and very applicable. I'll say that. And so that's what it means to me. Now, when I was writing it and I presented it to publishers, they were like, well, this is conflicting because you have a chapter here on surrender, and then you have this one on controlling yourself. And I'm like, well, you're missing the point.
Right.
You're missing the point. So,
no, you're not. Anyway. Read it again. Oh, man. No, that's awesome. I want to talk about that surrendering, because I love that analogy, man. Well, it wasn't even an analogy. It was something that happened. Faith to forgive. This is where you got me thinking, man. Tell me about faith to forgive, and then I want to just share with you my faith to forgive was for me to forgive myself, if that makes sense.
That's the hardest person I've ever had to forgive.
Okay, because I don't remember that and I was just like, man,
I don't think I put it in there. I've talked about it since the book came out.
Okay.
But I haven't, I don't believe I wrote about it, but I've talked about it on a number of interviews and in my talks. And um let me let me just tell you from my perspective. How about that?
Sure.
In my own intellect,
Oh, geez.
meaning my own belief system and my own ability to process, because I'm analytical, very analytical. That's how my brain works.
Okay.
Overthinkers unite, right?
There you go.
And and so in my own intellect, forgiveness is for a long time I remember saying, I'll never forgive so and so. I'll never forgive them, with an emphasis on never.
Right.
I will never forgive them. And then I guess it was probably a month or so before my first son was born. And I'm be straight up, I was scared out of my mind to be a dad.
Hmm.
Because I wanted so deeply to be a good dad. And I didn't want to screw it up.
Right.
So I started like, what is this in here? Like I didn't understand what this was. There was just something that didn't set right. You ever had that feeling like something just doesn't set right? Maybe it was the food we ate last night or this morning, or something that we drank that didn't set. But this was something that had lingered for some time. And it was just a nasty feeling, an emotion or something. I didn't know how to. And so I just started just kind of reflecting on it, and it was pure hate.
Hmm.
Unforgiveness is just a seed that grows into something stronger. And in my life, unforgiveness turned into bitterness, resentment, and then full hatred for the people who hurt me.
Hmm.
Because I began to look back over my life in preparation to become a dad. And I'm thinking, well, how did my dad do it? Well, there was a lot of times dad wasn't there because of the divorce situation, not because of him,
Right.
because of the divorce situation. And and I'm thinking, man, a strong man would not have allowed this to happen.
Hmm.
A strong presence of a good father would not have allowed this to happen, because good fathers are protectors by nature. They're going to protect their children. Even if they don't know about it, when they do find out about it, they're going to move to take care of the kids.
Hmm.
And so I started looking at all this, and then I just started thinking, man, this dude robbed me of so much. Both of these people took so much out of my childhood for me having a normal freaking childhood.
Hmm.
Like I didn't want to hug my dad, and that had nothing to do with him. It was because of what these evil demons were doing to me.
Yeah, they carved
And
the rut.
I didn't want to have any type of physical contact with them. And so it really made me very angry. To just put it in a very tactful way, I was very angry.
Sure.
And so I just started this process, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do this. Like I don't know how to forgive. Like I'm dumb as a box of rocks. And when I say I'm slow, I don't mean that to be self-deprecating or derogatory of myself. It's quite literal. I'm a slow learner. I was in school. I'm here. And so in the process of this, I said, okay, let's try this. So I'm outside of my house, and I closed my eyes, and I said, okay, God, I forgive them. And I open my eyes. I still want to kill him. Let's go back and do it again, because that didn't work. And so it was a process of dealing with it. So I began the process early on. I didn't commit to the process, but I began to dive into it. So as we move forward, I'll tell you
When
what
do you,
forgiveness is like.
Adam, when do you find out that you can't, the forgive, that hate and that love can't occupy the same space?
Say that one more time.
So
You broke
like,
up.
when do you realize that hate and that non-forgiveness and love moving forward can't occupy the same space? It's
Well, I mean, you know, you can hate evil, right? You can hate evil. But we can't grow and forgive, because forgiveness is based on love. And if it's not love for the person who offended you or hurt you deeply, it has to be love for yourself.
mm-hmm.
Or it has to be love for someone else that you're there for. I mean, there's a G.K. Chesterton, and I'm going to hack this up, but run with it. He said, we fight not because of we hate what's in front of us, because we love those who are behind us.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
so it's not necessarily that we forgive because we hate the person who hurt us. We forgive because we love ourselves enough to allow a place of healing to begin. And so we allow a place of healing to begin so we can show up better for the people that we truly love that are around us, are part of our lives, our family, our friends, the brothers and sisters around us, whatever the case is.
Right.
There are people in our life that we love that we got to show up for. And when we do, we don't, we need to be a healthy version of us. And it's impossible to begin healing without first addressing forgiveness. And forgiveness, it requires faith, because here's the deal. You can't touch forgiveness. You can't see forgiveness. You can't feel or smell forgiveness. In fact, I will venture to say that you will not feel any different the first time you forgive. You may, but you're not going to feel any different, because feelings are deceptive by nature. Mm. And so when you begin to forgive, you're doing something in faith, because faith is the substance of things we hope for but not yet seen. And so you hope that you can forgive and feel free, but you can't see it or feel it yet. And so when you begin to forgive in faith, it's literally an act of faith. And all you have to have, and I'm going to show you this for those that are watching, those that are listening, I'm going to describe it. There's a ballpoint pen here, and the tip of the ballpoint pen is about the size of this seed I'm going to show you. And I'm not going to give you a sermon, but I'm going to tell you what's changed my life. That's a mustard seed. If you can see it,
yeah,
that's a mustard seed right there. It's jacked up for some reason. Anyway,
I
there
got
you go.
Yeah.
Mustard seed. So that's about the size of a ballpoint pen, tip of it. Jesus said, if you have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you can speak to a mountain and the mountain will move. Now, he didn't mean literally that the mountain would move, but he did say it's not the size of your faith. It's the presence of your faith. All you have to do is just have a drop of faith. Can you say that just with a little bit of your being, that you believe? And if you say, I don't have any, then my suggestion would be, if there's a scale of 0 to 100 of things to know in our entire existence, how much of that do you say you know? And I'll say that I'm about 3 to 5% of things in all of life that I could possibly know. So that means that there's things beyond that I don't know yet. And so the thing that I trust and lean on is that mustard seed of faith, that one grain, that singular grain of faith that says, this is beyond me, but I'm going to trust that if I'm doing this, it's going to lead me to healing. Because look, let's be honest, what I've been doing, it ain't working.
How's that been working out for you, brother? and Adam, I think if I can clarify something for the listeners, forgiveness doesn't mean condoning.
100%. Absolutely not. No, it does not mean you're condoning the behavior of somebody else. And I'm going to take it another step further. It does not mean you have to put yourself back in a situation where you experience that again. It does not mean reconciliation of a relationship. Now, if it's an offense where you've been hurt emotionally, if there's been some type of offense with a brother, with your spouse, with a loved one, then do everything you can to reconcile that, unless it's a situation that you're unsafe in. That's right. always my butt.
Yeah, no, that's a good butt to have.
I'm not Jesus.
Yeah.
And I don't want people going in situations where they're being abused.
No, of course not. Of course not.
And so I would say that there's, if you can work on something to reconcile, then do so. But if it's unsafe for you physically, emotionally, spiritually, or mentally, put yourself in a place where you can heal safely.
Right. I think that's great advice. And so your forgiveness and you really doing that for not only, I mean, for you, it wasn't being done on, on behalf of anyone else but you. And so you could show up better for the people that were in your life.
Yeah. And I couldn't do it on my own strength. I'll tell you, I know that there's so many different belief systems and religions and theories and whatever, but I wanted to do it because I read the Bible. I don't know the Bible very well. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a scholar, but I do know that there's scripture that says, as you forgive, you're forgiven. And so I wanted to do it as an act of obedience to God, as my heavenly Father, as an act of obedience in faith, meaning I'm going to trust you with the pain more than I'm going to trust me with the pain, because if I trust me with the pain, I'm probably going to wear an orange jumpsuit the rest of my life.
Yeah. And that's, and in doing that, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you allow God, Jesus, to help carry that?
For me, I mean, that's, and it's beyond intellect for me to be able to understand how it works. But I go to him and I say, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And in fact, Jesus said, look, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, meaning you're carrying a heavy burden.
Yeah.
Come to me and I'll give you rest. Lay it down before me and I'll give you rest. And his yoke is easy and light, but his yoke is love.
Hmm.
His is love. That's the difference. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I trust 100% wholeheartedly in what he offers me over what pain offered me and what I could offer me, because what I could offer me was a good drunk at the end of the night. That's all I could offer me.
Yeah.
I could offer me bitterness, resentment, and hate, and hard-hearted cynicism. And I was bitter, man. I was just a hard-hearted dude, and I hurt so many people in my life just with my words. And that's, one of the things I've tried to do. Number one, I want to honor God with the gifts I've been given to write, but I wanted to make things right with helping others. I spoke death into people. I hurt people with my words, and I want to give people life for the rest of my life. And look, there's power of life and death in our words. That's why it's so important. I don't think that we should go stand in the mirror and in our Scooby-Doo pajamas and say, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, and then go lay back down in bed and expect $1 million to show up. But I believe that when we begin to shift our thinking process and align it with what we truly believe, and then our words line up with those two things, our actions are going to follow.
Right.
And I don't mean that to be weird or zoned out like something, but I believe that there's an alignment has to take place with our belief system and our actions and our words and our thoughts. And forgiveness was a hard first step, brother. I'm gonna tell you, it was a hard first step, but man, am I so grateful that I've been forgiven of so much, and that I have the grace to forgive others. I mean, thank God for it.
Yeah. I struggled with forgiving myself when I had an affair and when I damaged my family. Nope. I found it. I'll let you off the hook for a second. So my Nicole, I had said to her, and I think I don't think she understood it really. I said, I'm having a hard time loving you because I absolutely hate myself. And and she was she went to God on this one, and
yeah.
I don't. This is the thing. I You're going to debate me on this. I think God worked through her to reach me, because
I'm not going to debate you on that.
because I think without her, I know how the story ends, man, and I am not sitting here talking to you, and so I thought that it was, she prayed that 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 I would come back in her life, because I was gone. I don't even know where I was, brother. But I it took me a long time to give God credit, because it was her. It was her actions. And then when I talked more with her, it was her, praying. And so when I read some things in your book, it brought me back to that. And I said, man, holy smokes.
Look, I'll tell you, I pray pretty regular. I don't probably pray perfectly, and I probably don't pray enough, but I do pray. But I'll tell you, I've never personally seen an angel with wings or a halo. I know that God doesn't print money and put it in our mailbox. Just like the little boy that I was, when I was bloody and I was bruised and I was scared and I was crying and I was begging God to send me help. He will send you help. But I've got somewhere I'm going with this, so hang with me just a second.
I'm with you.
He'll send you help, but for the little boys and little girls in our communities, that help is going to look like a man or woman who answered a call wearing a badge and a gun belt.
There you go.
It's going to look like a man or woman who said yes to the call to serve in the most noble and honorable career in our country, and that's being a law enforcement officer. Amen. And when I needed somebody to show me what his love looked like, if I couldn't believe what his word says, the Bible, if I couldn't believe what the Bible said, he showed me what his love looked like through a woman called my wife. And so it's through that love that we get to see his love in action. But we also become vessels to show that to other people. And that's the beauty of what we're called to do. Literally, the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, all your mind, and love others. Love him and love others. And when we become a vessel, just like a cup or a funnel where that love comes through, then, man, what can we do? What great can we do in this world?
There's nothing we can't do.
That's right. There you go.
Thank you for making sense of that, man, because I wrestled with that for a long time. That, not in a bad way. Do you understand? But
no, I get you. I'm with you.
I
didn't get it overnight, bro. I didn't get it overnight.
But I like earmarked, highlighted. I'm like, oh, talk to Adam about this. Get his take on this. I love the part of the book where you talk about the significance of surrender. And everybody, unless you read it through the proper lens, you're not talking about rolling over, man. You're not talking.
No,
I'm not. And the analogy you used, I thought was so fitting about being being in the water.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the scariest days.
Oh,
listen, my gosh, man.
Listen, I was like, that was so well written. I'm going, I didn't read ahead, man. I'm like everybody knows what I'm like. I'm a Florida guy, I'm like, dude, tell the story, man. If you can, because I thought the analogy played really well into what you were trying to convey in that chapter.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's Father's Day several years ago. It was a Sunday morning, obviously Father's Day. My wife and kids got up. They know that there's two places I love to be with them: the mountains and the beach. Now, if you give me one or the other, I'm going to sit on the beach. I love it. I love being at the beach. And so they grabbed me up and they're like, "You're coming with us today." And
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. So we go down to the beach, and this is this little place called Inlet Beach. And I hope that somebody listening to this will know the people that this happened to. So, and that's why one of the reasons why I've told the story, because I want to reconnect with these people.
Okay.
So we're down there and we get there, and I believe it was one red flag. You know what the red flags mean? So 2 red flags. If you get in the water, you get a fine if they catch you. It means It's dangerous. Stay out, because somebody else is going to have to risk their life to save you if you go in, if you avoid the red flags. There's a whole nother book chapter out there, but we're not going to go into that.
No.
So I had a big inner tube that my wife had brought down, and so they were just going to sit on the beach, and I'm going to float in the water and then sit on the beach and whatever and just have a good time. And I grab the inner tube and I go out, and it's like maybe waist deep, maybe chest deep. I don't remember. It wasn't like super deep. I could still navigate it under normal circumstances, but as I'm walking out, I'm not noticing anything that gets my attention. And I get out and I'm floating and I'm just kind of relaxing, and I catch something out of the peripheral vision off to my left, and it's a woman probably 20 to 30 yards away from me, and she comes up out of the water and she's gasping for air, and then she goes back under, and I'm thinking, well, I wonder if she's diving for seashells or something. and I told you I'm slow, and then I realized, oh no, she's in trouble. So I immediately go into action. I didn't even think about it. I just went straight over there to her, and as I'm making my way to her, I see another man running out to her, and I would learn later that's her husband, and they were from New Orleans. and they had been coming to this beach for years and years. And so I get over to her, and he's making his way to her. By the time he gets there, he's starting to struggle. So I'm like, here's my inner tube. And I gave it to him. I'm like, I can tread water. I can get out of this. I'm sure she just got exhausted or something. I did not realize what the problem was. The problem was rip current.
Yeah, brother.
Undertow.
Yeah, man.
And so I'm immediately, like, I can catch glimpses of them as they're making their way back onto the beach. And then I see my wife and kids over here, and they're all kind of standing on the beach, kind of looking for me. And then other people are over here with their phones out recording. And that really,
right. That's what we do.
Made
we
me
see
angry.
That's what we do.
That made me angry.
Potential death on the door. Oh my
and
Lord.
So I'm struggling. I'm struggling, and I'm kicking with my leg as hard as I can. I'm with my arms. I'm doing everything I know to do. I can swim, but the waves are continuing to hit me in the face, and I'm just being pulled further and further out. The harder I fight, the harder I fight, the harder I fight. I'm being pulled deeper, or it feels deeper, but further out. And this little voice, little clicked, and I've heard it a few times throughout my life. And this little voice clicked and said, relax. And so I'm like, my heart is beating through my chest. I can feel my pulse in my throat, and I'm panicking, full-fledged panic mode at this point.
Yeah.
And so I just flip on my back, hold my breath, and the water's coming over me. And I remember the current carrying me. Now, it was albeit way far down the beach, but it carried me to shore. Huh. So there's sometimes in life engaging in a gunfight, engaging in a ground fight, engaging in a healthy conflict resolution conversation with someone you love, that you have to engage. And there's times you have to physically engage, but there are times where the battle requires you to just be still. And God's word says the same thing. I keep saying that. And the Bible says that there's times we have to just be still. And it's beyond our intellect. It's beyond our training, because me and you are both trained.
Counterintuitive.
Never quit, never quit, never quit. You do not give up a fight. And if I come up on a scene and I see John Kelly in a ground fight, if I don't get in, I'm getting pummeled, and rightfully so afterwards, because we don't deal with cowards the right way.
No doubt.
And so that was so counterintuitive to me. So I flipped on my back. I got to shore. I was angry at the people recording me, but man, I love to see my family, talk to the people a little bit. But I learned a lesson there. There's some things that are better when we stop thrashing and fighting. And when we kick back and say, what can I do in this moment, in this situation? There's nothing I can do about what has been. There's not a whole lot I can do about what will be, but I can do something right now. And this will affect what can be better than what I can focus on by what was. And so when I focus on what I can do right now, it means sometimes take a deep breath and let it go. And like what happened in the patrol car, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, was a miracle of the pause. And so in the battle, there was a pause. And the battle was a pause where a miracle occurred, because if I'd have continued fighting, I would have died. Because you know how many people just this year died on that same beach trying to do the same thing I did?
Oh,
several.
No doubt. No doubt.
And so it's the surrender. It's not saying I'm giving up. It's I'm fighting with a different tactic and strategy.
The best way to put it. Fighting, continuing to stay in the fight using a different tactic.
There you go. And surrender doesn't mean you're rolling over and letting people abuse you. It just means we're going to a different skill set.
That's all right. That makes perfect sense, man. It makes perfect sense. Going through the book some more, the antidote for complacency. That whole taking action and being consistent in your behaviors. I love the habits. The book, the way you have it, like it's not just you, reflecting and you provide some tangible advice and workable routines to implement, not only to develop spiritual habits, but relationship habits, physical habits, and definitely with your mindset. Speak to those if you would. I was like, I was reading through them. I'm like, no, that's like you outlined like a day of self-care. Like
Yeah.
this is how you stay in a good way.
Yeah. Consistency and discipline will do more for you than motivation could ever do.
Right.
Motivation is like taking a vitamin on Monday and eating fast food for 4 meals a day for the next 6 years and expecting the vitamin to do good for you.
Right.
Motivation fades.
Right.
It really does. But consistency will change your life when good things are being done consistently. And sometimes it's not things that we want to do. When I'm coaching authors, we talk about writing, and as a writer who's writing for pleasure, you can write for when inspiration hits. But if you're a professional author, it requires discipline to write because inspiration will also fade.
Hmm.
Inspiration will not always be there.
Right.
And so you're not always going to feel like doing the things necessary, whether it's for me, like getting up and thinking about like, what am I grateful for today? What am I grateful for in my life as a whole? And not just being cliche about it. Well, I'm thankful for God, family, country, or
No.
whatever.
Be
I'm
specific.
I'm I'm thankful for the shoes on my feet. I'm thankful for the breath in my lungs. I'm thankful for the clothes on my back. I'm thankful for the roof over my head. I'm thankful for the relationship with, and then begin to name it.
Yeah.
But self-discipline, look, you're either going to be willing to discipline yourself, call it self-discipline, or someone else is going to do it for you.
Hmm.
It's going to be a boss. It's going to be a debt collector. It's going to be a bill. It's going to be some other struggle, something in some way in life. You can choose to discipline yourself, or something else is going to do it for you, or someone else is going to do it for you. And so it's not only with the habits that we need to have in our life that can change our life for the better. And you're not going to see immediate results all the time, but you're going to see results if you do the right things. And so the habits, man, it's like, what do you need to change? I talk to people all the time and they're like, well, I have, for years I dealt with seasonal depression. And so what did I do to kind of dig out of that? The doctors wanted to put me on this, this, and this. So what I did was I found ways to give to others, even if it wasn't monetarily. Why do you think that I wrote a book called Behind the Badge? It's 365 daily devotions for law enforcement. It's encouragement. It's 100,000 words of encouragement. You know why I did that? Because there was a time in my life I needed someone to be kind to me and encourage me more than I needed them to criticize me. I needed someone to love me more than I needed them to correct me in love. But I needed someone to speak life into me. But you can't do any of those things if you're not disciplined enough to say, and look, it's not always all about physical fitness. Yeah, go move your body. But if your tent, your physical body, your flesh, if your tent is healthy, but your soul is sick, your tent will fail sooner than later. If your soul is sick, the tent will fail sooner than it should have.
Right.
Because soul sickness leads to physical sickness. It's been proven. There's science that shows.
It's often very overlooked, isn't it?
It very much is. And so habits look like, okay, spiritual habits. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray. I'm going to read. And then I literally write how to pray.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now, man. How to pray.
Relationship habits. Look, I'm going to talk to guys for just a second because I is one. If you're married, speak kindly and with gentleness with the women with the woman in your life. That's what I meant to say. I promise.
Yeah, come on, man.
You're
getting me all jammed up again, man. Come on.
I was thinking of my daughter. You have to be gentle with your wife, with your daughter, with the women in your life, with your mom.
Yeah.
But sit down and have a conversation. And look, I'm going to be the first to tell you, I can get up on stage and I can do these, but one-on-one stuff like that,
that's the work, man.
Really intentional.
That's the work. That's the
work. And it
work.
requires discipline. But I'm going to tell you something, just for the men, just for a second, if I can.
Please.
If you will sit down and initiate meaningful conversations with your wives, the level of intimacy that, and I don't just mean sex. Okay. Intimacy is not sex. It's a
Correct.
bond that deepens between you.
Right.
That level of intimacy between you two is going to be deeply rooted, but you can't just do it on Monday and expect it to last. It has to be something consistent. Another thing, be present in the moment. And here's the challenge. You ready? I'm going to hold up this mobile office here. It's a smartphone.
Oof.
When you're talking to someone you love, someone so important that they're sitting in front of you, don't just flip this over to where it's not face up. Put it on airplane mode and put it in your pocket, put it away.
Yeah.
Because when you have this out,
put it in the box.
What's his name? I think his name is Simon Sinek. Yes. Simon said, this in your hand when you're talking to someone just delivers a subconscious message that you're still not the most important thing to me.
No,
right
man.
Now.
You're distracted.
And so be present in the moment. But that also means that I'm not going to worry about what I need to do in 10 minutes. You are my sole focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we have such division in relationships, and we have such discord in relationships because we're constantly focused on what we have to do in the next 10 minutes or tomorrow. And we're focused on the problems we haven't dealt with yesterday, that we miss the moment we have right now. And this is the only moment we're guaranteed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't guaranteed in the past, but we're blessed with it now. And so that's, those are a few things that I would recommend. Of course, spiritual habits are so critical. But taking that time to pray, however you pray, I give a guide for it, how I pray in the book, and then,
right.
And it's so important. And so just taking that time, and it's really about being still for just a few moments, being quiet for just a few moments, because there's so much noise in the world. When we can take time to be quiet and be still for just a few minutes to start our day and end our day, it's going to give you some kind of strength that you may not be used to yet.
And some clarity, I think. Some clarity.
Oh, most definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I've dealt with is thyroid disorder, testosterone, low testosterone, and these different things. A byproduct of those issues is brain fog. But one of the things I've been able to use to help gain clarity.
I got a testosterone guy, by the way.
It's
a joke.
It's I don't. Yeah. Is to be still for just a few moments. And so I'm going to speak to my fellow believers for just a moment, because I know not everybody believes the same, but this is a challenge among people who are Christians or follow Jesus or believe in the Bible. Is oftentimes we think, God, I need your help today because I've got this issue, this issue, this issue. I've got this challenge. I got this pain. I need your help. I need your help. Instead, pivoting that prayer and saying, God, thank you so much for this challenge and this need right now. What is it that you're trying to teach me in this moment? Help me to be a faster learner than I have been in the past.
Yeah.
And there's a much deeper model that you see in the book, but I think it when we shift towards a heart of thankfulness and gratefulness, something so profound as thank you for the pain. And I don't mean that to be in a real sick way, but thank you for the pain because there's something I can learn from it. So
I love it. It's like not oversimplifying it, but you know how Jocko says, good.
Yeah.
Good. This, a situation developed. Good. This is an opportunity for me to grow. Something went off the rails. Good. This is this is a second chance. Yeah, it's a second chance to get it done right.
Look, if you've made horrible decisions in the past, learn from it, man.
Absolutely.
If you've made bad relationship decisions in the past, learn from it. Use it to help a brother in your circle.
Yes.
Use it. If you've made bad financial decisions in the past, learn from it. Use it. There's nothing you cannot overcome. And look, when I tell you that my goal is to help specifically law enforcement and other first responders discover what it means to live unconquered, it's with the acknowledgement that we all have some scars, we all have some bruises, we all have some individual battles that have left a mark on us. But at the end of the day, the war is won, and it's won right in here. It's not necessarily the things we do here. with our hands, but it's done in our heart and soul. And the heart, let me clarify this, because I grew up in the Bible Belt, and I'm just going to make this really quick, but I grew up in the Bible Belt. And I told you early on, going to church 12, 13 days a week is what it felt like, because I was there all the time. But I always heard, you need to ask Jesus in your heart. You need to ask Jesus in your heart, blah, and I never understood that. Also, signing the membership card, you can't listen to rock and roll. You can't go to the movies. You can't dance. You can't do this. I'm like, who the crap would ever want to sign up for this?
Yeah, not a lot of people raising their hands, signing up.
No,
man. Not happening.
But here's what I discovered what it meant, and just bear with me. I'm not going to give you a sermon, but it's a change of our mindset, our willpower, our desires. Look, whenever I begin to make changes and allow these changes, there's a surrender. Allow these changes to happen within me. You can't force it. You can't fight it. You have to allow these changes to begin to take place when you begin to do certain things and create certain healthy habits in your life and disciplines. When I allow these things to begin to take place through surrender, there were certain things I no longer wanted to do. I wanted to be selfless instead of selfish. I wanted to be loving instead of hateful. I wanted to be kind instead of being rude. I wanted to be somebody that somebody said, man, that dude loves you, and you're going to walk away encouraged. It doesn't matter what happens in that conversation. You're going to be encouraged if you spend a few minutes with him.
Right.
That became my goal. I wanted to speak life into people. I wanted to
add value to their lives.
Yeah, man. And so it becomes, what it means to ask Jesus into your heart. It's a religious phrase. It's Christianese. It means, what about you needs to change inside of me? What can I change inside of me because of who you are? And so if I read the Bible, then if I'm just reading it, it looks like a historic document until I realize the words are speaking life to me and they're alive and well, and then they can begin to affect my desires. And I'm going to tell you the greatest desire that ever changed. And I'm sure you'll ask me about it in just a minute whenever we talk about the patrol car. So I'll shut up. I'm sorry. I'll keep talking.
No, listen, we're great. I love this road we're going down. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, that's allowing the things to take place inside of you instead of trying to control everything. That's been one of the biggest things. I've been a control freak, in the fact that I like to control the circumstances around me.
Right.
I did. I mean, and then I just realized, all I can do is control how I respond. And we didn't talk about the mindset habits, man, but maybe they can see that. But yeah, I mean, I told you early on, I became this hard-hearted, cynical guy that was emotionally numb. And I'd gone through a period a few months before my patrol car encounter where, and this is going to sound really bad, but I interrogated God.
That doesn't sound bad. It sounds like something that that would happen.
Not based on his existence, because I've always believed he existed, right? I've always believed he existed, but it was based on goodness and love.
Make more of his engagement.
Yeah, like, are you really good? Like the Bible says. Are you really loved? Like the Bible says. The Gospel of John says that he's loved. And in the New Testament of the Scripture, and I wrestle with that because I went back to my childhood. I'm like, where were you? If you're loved and you're good, then where were you then? If you're good and you're loved, then where were you in this church that I grew up in? I want to be really clear. It is absolutely a beautiful thing if you find a healthy church. Okay, not all churches are like the one I was in as a teenager, so I'm not trying to steer you away from that. So please hear me. But I'm saying, where were you, God, in this? Where were you, God, in the loss of this loved one? Where were you in this? And so I got to the point I was very cynical, hard-hearted, isolated. There was a time in my career in law enforcement, I didn't have a single contact, a single friend out that I talked to outside of law enforcement, specifically the department I work with.
Right.
That's not healthy. That's not healthy.
Of course not.
And so I come home one afternoon, I took off my gear, and I sat down in my recliner and I stared at a blank TV screen in front of me. And there's a kitchen island behind me. My wife was standing there. She turned the water off at the sink, and she said in the sweetest voice, "Hey, babe, how was your day?" Now, wisdom has taught me how I should have responded
Right.
was different than how I actually responded. I should have said, "Hey, I had a really hard day. Um, can we do
Wait,
this
are you
later
are you
and
talking
do
about
something?"
communicating like an adult?
Yeah, you think?
Oh.
Yeah, and I should have done that, but I didn't. I said fine,
Hmm.
and I did it with a tone that I don't even think I can mimic now.
Right,
And
right, right.
and so that led to a discussion, an argument, and I packed my bags and went and stayed in a portable office building. And I drank and drank and drank, and I was unfaithful to my wife. And I'm not going to say I was unfaithful because I have this or have this. No, I was selfish jerk. I was, and that's the root cause of it. I was selfish. I was selfish. I didn't, and here's the thing. We talk about pause. I'm going to pause real quick and go down a rabbit hole real quick. So
Go ahead,
jump
man.
on board. We talk about sharing the burden in relationships, specifically the marriage, and being selfish. Selfishness is not just what you do for yourself, it's what you keep to yourself. It's the burdens that your wife or your husband has agreed to help you carry and share that you keep to yourself, that you don't share with them in vulnerability.
That only happens if you communicate.
Right? And I didn't. And I
Yeah,
didn't. And so
man.
I went and I did my thing for a while, and on a Sunday morning I got up and I put my uniform on. I got in my patrol car and I went and I did a 4-hour block overtime. And I pulled my patrol car into the parking lot of an abandoned gas station just on the south side of town. And I backed my car into a parking space at the front of the building. And I stopped and I pulled my sidearm out. I'm a left-handed shooter. Pulled my sidearm out and I paused right here. If you can see it, it's about face level, the left side of my face. And I paused and I yelled at God. I'm not going to yell now, but I said, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know where you're at, but if you have a plan or a purpose for my life, you can have me. Otherwise, I'm done. I'm tired of hurting. I'm tired of fighting. I'm out. Because from the time I was a little boy, I thought, man, I'd been better off never born. There were times I thought, man, as a man, my family would be better off if I wasn't here. I'm tired of the pain. I'm tired of the hurting. I'm tired of the fighting. I'm tired of the struggle. And I'm going to tell you that I have tried over 8 or 9 years to convey with some degree of adequacy what happened in the patrol car that day, the peace that I felt, the love that I felt. And I know that there's probably like a physiological or psychological, even biological explanation for what happened. But I felt a peace come over me that I've, in 6.5 million words, have not been able to describe. I felt a peace that come over me. If you've ever been to the water first thing in the morning, it looks like glass. Mm-hmm. That's what my soul immediately became. I felt a love. I felt like this embrace of love.
Like a hug, right?
Like a hug, like an embrace, like a hug, like just, and I can't explain it other than the fact if you've ever hugged somebody you love and you felt that love and that embrace, amplify it like times 1,000.
Right.
That's what I felt right.
Kind of hug that you don't want to let go.
There you go. That's where we want to live, is in the embrace.
Yeah, man.
And so I went that afternoon, found my wife, and like I said, I'm sure that there's an explanation scientifically for it. I choose to believe that when I called on God, He met me in a patrol car, and the power of His Holy Spirit, He met me right there.
Yeah, man.
And so, I had what I firmly believe with all my heart, an encounter with a living God, but I still had to make changes in my behavior. So you can have an encounter with God,
sure,
but you've still got to make changes in your
that doesn't wipe the slate clean, brother.
It wipes the sin clean, but it doesn't change your future unless you change your behavior.
Got to change your actions.
The embrace. But based on the embrace, it has to change based on the embrace.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing about His love. His love does not demand anything but a response. And rejection of His love is still a response. His love demands a response. And so I wanted to begin living in a way that was a proper response to the love that had been so graciously shown to me. So if you've ever been loved by someone so well, you want to love them back. And
Right.
you want to do things that, because love is not something that we talk about, it's something we do.
Mhm.
I wanted to express my love in a way through my life that became the most generous thank you that I could do.
By actions, by your
Action,
actions.
not just to him, but to my wife and to my
Right. Yeah.
children.
To everybody in your life.
And,
Yeah.
And so love changed me. It wasn't rules or laws or regulations or religious standards. It was the love of God that changed me.
Hmm.
And so it's never been about religion. It's never been about religion. For a long time, I kept church at a really long arm's distance.
Right. Copy. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was about an encounter with the living God that we can have at any moment and operate and live from a place of an embrace with him that changes our perspective of pain, gives us more gratitude for the good relationships we have, and gives us courage to separate from the toxic ones. And it also gives us courage to deal with the pain. And so it was because of love that changed me. It's because of love that saved my life and saved my marriage. And it's because of love I'm here today.
Hmm. Your problems are my problems, and my problems are your problems, brother. And I can tell you that embrace, that love, that's so glad that was that that prayer was answered, man. It's
Yeah. And the fact that my wife forgave me and she's loved me through it
yeah.
all. And um that's a different kind of love, brother.
No,
It's rare.
it,
Unfortunately, it's rare.
it is. Eh, one part that I think, which my Nicole, she said that I think it bears repeating, maybe for the women out there, or
Mm-hmm.
for those that have been wronged in that relationship. She said, because I'm in a relationship with you, I bear responsibility for its health. It doesn't need to be 50-50, but if I'm in a relationship with you, I bear responsibility for its health. And maybe it's 99% your fault and 1% mine, but I got to own my 1%. And so
That's good.
I'm willing to own my 1%.
That's
I'm
good.
willing to be better. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's good. I
Um,
think,
ooh,
and something my wife has reminded me of time and time again is very similar. It's like, hey, we're a team.
yeah.
I know you feel like you've got to carry all the burdens, but when we said I do to each other, it meant literally we will share the burden together. Even if
Yeah.
you're the one who created the burden, I'm going to help share it
Yeah. You
because
said
that's
in the
what love
book,
does.
you're blessed in your marriage if your spouse challenges you, empowers you, influences you, and supports you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, my Nicole, my Nicole, my Nicole, my Nicole.
Isn't that good?
Right?
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, but that's
yeah, man.
really any friendship that we have. If they don't do those things,
Right, right.
if they don't make you better in some way, are they really friends?
No doubt. And it's the psychology behind continuing to associate with people like that. That's another podcast. But I think
Yeah.
having I think it's an awesome thing if your significant other, if your spouse can check all those
Oh,
boxes for you.
jeez, man, that's a beautiful thing. I
Isn't
can
it?
tell you, you can, yeah, we can both attest to that.
Yep. We are blessed. Hey Adam, before we wrap up, brother, I can you leave the listener with some some thoughts from Adam? And I know
Yeah.
it's a big ask, bro. It's a big ask. Um,
No, no,
I
I'll
just
tell you.
there
Yeah.
are a lot of guys and girls out there, man. One, I think Unconquered would make an excellent Christmas gift. It's just about
Thank
the
you.
right size to go in a stocking. Perfect stocking stuffer. Um, but I think it's a gift, man, that if you give, you're giving more than you could ever imagine to that
Yeah.
first responder, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Now I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning. We're all connected by the pain we pretend to hide. But you were created for more. And and the most significant moments of my life where I was literally saved from death have been found in a place of embrace and surrender. And I know that so many of you have been hurt deeply by people you loved, so many people that you trusted, that you've been hurt by the people you very much gave a commitment of your life to serve. And there's nothing that any of us can do about that, but we can control how we move forward. If you have friends, if you have brothers, if you have sisters, you're blessed. If you have a husband or wife who loves you, if you have a significant other who loves you, if you have children, if you have family, people that you call family, even if you don't share the same DNA, you are blessed beyond life. There's a story I like to share real quick that my brother-in-law, I believe in 2005, he was diagnosed with leukemia at 17 years old. He battled it for about 10 months, and he's the one that gave me this little mustard seed coin before he passed away. But about a month before he passed away, there was a conversation with something like this. This lady came in and she said, you know, you can meet anybody, get anything, go anywhere you want, name it what you want. And he said, I just want to grow up to be a husband and a father. So you see, the things we crave the most, even in our dying moments, are relationships. And maybe it's not a romantic relationship, but maybe it's a brother. The Bible tells us in the book of Proverbs, I believe, that a brother was born for times of adversity. You have brothers available to you. And if you don't have one in your life right now, there's two that you're listening to in this. You've got a brother. But if I could point you to anything, I would point you to not isolate, not continue to hide pain. But even if you have no pain that's hidden, there's a better way. You were created for more. You were created to live unconquered. There's a scripture in the New Testament that says, you are more than conquerors through Christ who strengthens you. You are more than conquerors. There's so much depth of that, we don't have time. You are created to do more than just survive. You're created to live unconquered, to live above defeat. That doesn't mean you're not going to have trouble. Even Jesus promised us in this world you have trouble, but he also said, take heart, I overcame the world and I've given you the power. He didn't say that, but through scripture, you read it, he's given us the power to overcome this world. I'm not coming to you to tell you, you need to change this, you need to change this, you need to change this. I'm telling you that you have been given all power through him to overcome whatever you're dealing with. And it's his love that changes everything. If you're battling today, don't battle alone. Don't go through it just by yourself. Don't isolate. Live unconquered requires healthy relationships around you. Because at the end of the day, when we come to the last breath, when we come to that moment, just before we take our last exhale, we're going to long for one thing. That's more time with the relationships that mattered most. And you think about the ones that you'd miss the most today if they were gone, and begin to be more present in those moments and invest more of you, healthy you. Get healthy. If you don't get healthy for anybody else, get healthy for them. Because love will change everything if you let it. And that's where surrender is. It's not surrender to the pain. It's surrender to the love that you've been invited to embrace. And that's what it means to live unconquered.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Davis, brother, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I'm honored at the opportunity. Thank you.